Love isn't even real, what's the point? Two men who love each other so much, but they just can't make it work. And if they can't make it work, what hope do the rest of us have? Trump and Elon have split, and to quote AOC, the girls are fighting. But now the dust is cleared and everyone's calmed down, kind of. So let's go over every insane thing that these two messy queens said about each other as they continue to make the world a worse and generally more annoying place. On this, Scroll Deep with me, Benedict Townsend, the show that keeps up with internet nonsense so you don't have to. And internet nonsense is now how we do international politics, so that's cool. We've had a roller coaster of emotions as the richest man in the world did what we would all do if we had hundreds of billions of dollars. Sit on a giant yacht and sunbathe forever. No! Sit on Twitter and yell about your ex, Donald Trump. The great bromance has come to an end, or at least it was for about a week. Might be back on now, but we'll get to that. And it all started on Tuesday the 3rd of June with Elon openly criticizing the Big Beautiful Bill Act. Again, I've said it before, it can be a bill, it can be an act. You gotta choose. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it, said Elon Musk. He keeps calling it pork. This is gonna be a weird theme throughout this. Basically, this is Elon taking shots at Donald Trump and his signature piece of legislation, the Big Beautiful Bill Act, which came after they had a pretty peaceful parting. They had a little ceremony in the Oval Office where they kind of said goodbye and kissed each other on the forehead, and it seemed like they were going to be pals. But immediately, Elon has come out swinging. And then Trump, on live TV from the Oval Office, he said that they'd had a great relationship, but he said, I don't know if we will anymore. He also said that Musk was upset because Trump had cut the subsidies for electric vehicles, at least in this upcoming bill, and that would affect Elon's Tesla business, his SpaceX business. Basically said that Elon was sore because of all this cutting that was happening. And Elon, he was not very happy about that. He said, quote, whatever. Keep the EV solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil and gas subsidies are even touched, brackets, very unfair, but ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in this bill. In the entire history of civilization, there has never been legislation that's both big and beautiful. Everyone knows this. Either you get a big and ugly bill or a slim and beautiful bill. Slim and beautiful is the way. This is how normal people talk. Unrelated, but there was a story recently about Elon's alleged extensive drug use. Anyway, Elon then declared all-out war on President Trump, writing on X, the Everything app, quote, without me, Donald Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House, and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate, which is a really interesting thing to admit when there were a lot of questions around the way the election was conducted. I don't want to get conspiratorial, but it was weird, right? They did it. He did the money giveaways. That was odd. Donald Trump also had a quote at the time of the election. He said this live in person. He said, quote, and he knows those computers better than anybody. All those computers, those vote counting computers. And we ended up winning Pennsylvania, like in a landslide. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So thank you to Elon. A very strange thing to admit out loud. Someone then posted that Trump should be impeached, to which Elon replied, yes, this has now been deleted. A lot of these have now been deleted. It's been a very messy week. I then started trolling Trump by quote tweeting some of his old tweets. Back many years ago, Trump tweeted, I cannot believe the Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I'm a Republican and I'm embarrassed. To which Elon very wittily quote tweeted, wise words. He kept doing this, basically calling Trump a hypocrite. He also posted a throwback to Trump selling Teslas on the White House lawn, one of the craziest things that's ever happened. And he just said, remember this, Donald Trump? That also does feel like big breakup material. That's like, remember that day when we laughed with the Teslas on the lawn? Now we don't have that anymore. Now all we have is pork. On Truth Social, the evil app, I guess, Trump said Elon was wearing thin, which I've gotta say, I mean, Trump is one of the greatest of all time. He's such a sassy and he's so good at insulting people without swearing, but there's nothing more withering than saying someone has been wearing thin. That is devastating. Again, I hate Donald Trump, but that is it's a pretty good insult. He said Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everybody to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, brackets, that he knew for months I was gonna do, and he just went crazy. That's how I imagine he said it. The EV mandate, by the way, this is just basically a thing that like makes Elon money with his electric cars. That's all you need to know. Trump then went nuclear. He said, quote, time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. DJT. I like the idea that he calls that a big bomb, as if that has not just been public. There's photos of them together. They're famous friends. Who do you think killed him? I joke. Still, a pretty incendiary thing to say about your ex-girlfriend. Also, a really interesting thing to say about someone that you worked with, that you helped elect president. You gave your time, your money, your reputation. You put everything on the line to make this man president that you are now saying was in the Epstein files. Also, someone you repeatedly brought your small child around. He would not stop bringing his small son to the Oval Office of the man that you say is in the Epstein files. It's like Trump saying, like, Elon was wearing thin and he sucks. Why did you hire him then? If you hate each other so much, why did you work together for so long? Elon then had what I would call a great idea. He said, it's time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle. That's a fascinating conception of the middle, I will say, firstly. Also, it's very funny when extremely right-wing people are like, I'm a centrist. Okay. He did a poll on his own website that went well, which is shocking, and he said, the people have spoken. A new political party is needed in America to represent the 80% in the middle, and exactly 80% of the people agree. This is fate, and he decided to call it the America Party. Apropos of nothing, this man is South African. I don't mind that, but I thought you guys hated that he's not American. He's like South African and Canadian. He can't be president because he wasn't born in America. You gotta pick a stance on these things. Like in LA, you're against immigrants. By the way, LA is crazy because it's probably the first major news story that is happening solely inside people's heads. Like the entire crisis that is happening in LA truly only exists in their heads of terrified suburban people watching Fox News. And then the actual on the ground footage is like a relatively small amount of people exercising their right to protest ICE. ICE, by the way, is a domestic police at this point that hides the identity of the people who work for it and hides the identity of their vehicles and keeps a secret of their locations. It's a sort of secret police, if you will. He reshared a post of JD Vance and Theo Von. Theo Von, 45 years old. Always fun to remind people of that. The whole Theo Von thing is a lot less cute when you realize he's pushing 50. I'm 20 years younger than Theo Von. Isn't that crazy? Also, fun side note, Elon shared a meme which referenced his extensive use, which is kind of wild that he did that. Now, this is interesting. He started talking about his rockets. He said, whatever happens, we have got the spaceships and they do not. Now, this is actually a problem because SpaceX and Elon's companies do have kind of a stranglehold on American space travel at this point. Like NASA and the rest of them can't really do much without Elon. So that is a bit of a problem if he decides to throw a hissy fit and take the rockets away. Spaceship on my arm, no spaceship on yours. But then as the situation in LA started to unfold, Elon remembered, like, wait a minute, there's something I dislike more than Donald Trump, and that's people protesting fascism. Friendship ended with freedom. Now my best friend is fascism again. And he did the meme. And then he tweeted, I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far. Which is such a funny thing to say after you accuse someone of being a pedophile. A documented one. And it's actually interesting throughout this. Trump was very restrained. Trump is famously a very thin-skinned person. Trump is famously a person who likes to be in feuds. He really wasn't biting back against Elon, and he's definitely seeing it. He's always online, which I think says a lot about how much sway and power Elon has over Trump, and probably how much blackmailable material Elon has over Trump. Trump really kept quiet. For example, one of the things he said was that Elon had lost his mind. He said, I think it's a very bad thing because he's very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. You could not disrespect the office of the president, which is like one of the most restrained and reasonable things Donald Trump has ever said. Seems mad that came from Donald Trump's lips. He also described himself as, quote, a little disappointed about the fallout, but said there were, quote, no hard feelings. I think he feels very badly that he said that. Again, it's like it's his, like, small son or something, and they just had a little bit of an argument. This is the president of the United States. But the memes and reactions were flowing. Someone said, who gets JD Vance in the divorce? I really enjoyed that. Someone else said, quote, mind you, this is all a coordinated effort to upstage Addison Rae on her release date. Don't fall for it. It's true, the deep state can't handle the fact that Addison Rae got an 8.0 from Pitchfork. This one really made me laugh, quote, big day for guys who keep asking Grok if this is true. I'm really, this is a different video. I'm really interested in what's gonna happen to these people who are mortgaging a lot of their brain power onto AI. Your brain is a muscle. If you don't use it, you are gonna become slop. Someone else said, this is like Kendrick versus Drake, but with two Drakes. Someone else noted, Truth Social has crashed from the traffic surge, and in doing so, accidentally created a hauntingly pointless poignant image, which is this image. Someone else said, quote, blue-haired women and red-hatted men are both keying my Tesla. WTF. It's funny that, like, everything in history has now contrived to screw over the Tesla company specifically. But to be fair, that company has been riding high on the hog unfairly for too long. It makes no sense that company is this successful, so they can afford to be taken down a peg. And now we come to the present moment. Maybe they will be friends again. But I do think Elon is going to be like, I've run out of right-wing grift. I've become German, apparently, and I'm going to go left-wing. I think that's his move. But what do you make of all this? Who are you backing in this fight? Or is it like the Ken Watanabe meme of, you know, let them fight, let them take each other out? Let me know your opinions in the comments below. And now we come to the secret question for the people who made it all the way to the end of the show to reward your good attention span. For this, I guess we'll keep it politics related. Which Mario Kart character would you trust to help you bury a body? I mean, Dry Bones, he's Bones, so he kind of knows about that stuff. But Daisy's a real one. She'd keep the secret. So let me know in the comments down below. And let me know where in the Mario Kart world you're burying it. I'm Benedict Townsend. This has been Scroll Deep. These two fighting is extremely tennis, and I'm sorry that this episode was filled with so much pork! Filthy pork. Goodbye.